Welcome to the Temple of Flame. On today, Faith Blacklights, we take a look at this. And what this is from Woodstock, it is the, well, they're calling it the ghost pepper hot sauce. And we've got no added sugar, which I think is a very odd thing to put on a hot sauce that is ostensibly just a single pepper. And I don't understand why you would put no added sugar. That's like, you know, Frank's Red Hot, no added sugar. Or, you know, Red Devil, no added sugar. It is so bizarre because nobody would be expecting added sugar in a sauce like this. Very, very odd. They call this one very hot. Oh, they put 33,000 Scoville units. Or 33,000 Scoville units. I don't anticipate this has actually been tested. I think, in fact, it hasn't. This was sold under a different name before they rebranded to Woodstock. I don't recall what that was. But it's made by the same place in Costa Rica that made the other one. I wish I could remember the name of it. In any case, let's take a look here at the ingredients. The Nagalokia chili pepper. Is it? We'll get into that. Water, salt, acetic acid, which is the vinegar, garlic, modified cornstarch, and xanthan gum for thickeners, and citric fiber. Type is probably also there to be a thickener slash emulsifier. It's interesting that there is cornstarch and xanthan gum both in this. So let's take a look here, and then we'll chat about this sauce here in a minute, momentarily. It doesn't really have a lot of xanthan gum jiggle to it, though. It doesn't really have that, especially. It looks more or less just like what it would be, what you'd expect with this sort of sauce, which should be maybe closer to like a Louisiana style, only with ghost pepper instead of cayenne. But there's a problem with this sauce. And I'm mentioning that right now because the smell wafting off of just this bit in the spoon is very intense and puzzling. There's a look at the color. There's a look at the flow. It is very, very loose. Actually, I guess maybe just very loose. Not very, very loose, but very loose. It's on the looser side, but it's not like watery where they would want a restrictor cap. You might want one for other reasons, but it's not because of it's not because of the consistency, which is, I would say, is probably actually between maybe like a loose and a medium, kind of a medium thick. But all that aside, let's get on into this. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So it is quite punchy. No mistaking that. Here's the weird thing with this. This has sat for, by the time I filmed this, a little bit over a month with me trying to come to terms with it. It was one I picked up on vacation last year, along with a different sauce from them, the Scotch Bonnet, which was a sauce that I enjoyed quite a lot. But I didn't get to the sauce. It sat on the shelf for a while, and because I thought it was probably going to be like Louisiana style. One of my favorite Louisiana styles is from Irazu, where it's a cayenne and ghost pepper. Ghost pepper has long been one of my favorite super hots. I've had a lot of it. However, what's in here reminds me of a pepper that I have had a fair amount of, but like a whole lot less these days, which is the scorpion. So I wouldn't say it's directly a scorpion. I'm kind of, there might be a scorpion in this and it's mislabeled. That's the first thing I thought of. That it is actually a scorpion sauce that is mislabeled. They just put the label on the wrong bottle, right? That's my first thought. But we could also have some cross-pollination between the ghosties and the scorpion, because this has such a forward floral nature to it. This tastes more like scorpions than does ghosts by a lot. And so I've by the time I pitch for this video, I'll probably be through about half the bottle. And I'm fighting it a lot. Because sometimes I forget that it has that nature to it. But also I want to try to, most of the time I get sauces, I want to try to use them. This sauce will be leaving the fridge at the conclusion of this video. So this is going to be one that I pass along to somebody else. Even though I like it better than the School of Hot Sauce Carolina Reaper, which is another sauce that I'm kind of fighting right now. This one is just very hard for me to use because the floral notes of the scorpion are very, very forward, and I don't like them. Especially in a setting where I'm using it as like a Louisiana style. And so the sauces I like that use scorpion pepper don't have a lot of that very forward floral nature to them. But I've honestly kind of steered away from scorpion sauces for a while. Fatali I have the same sort of issue with. So I don't go looking for those. And that's not to say I'm 100% trying to exclude them or anything like that. I just am looking at other stuff, I guess, first. It's not like I dislike scorpions, but I don't hate them. I don't avoid them like the plague. Not even extract do I do that with. So it just, the flavor notes I just don't find enjoyable. The heat's nice, but I don't find the rest of it particularly pleasant. So what we got here is another Devour White Cheddar Mac and Cheese with bacon. And we'll just glob some of this on. This is a very nice, thick, rich mac and cheese. Oh man, this is as much as I like the Scotch Bonnet from them, I dislike this. Anyway, though, we'll give it a go here on this, and it is fairly astringent, so it should work fine cutting through this. It's just that funky flavor profile. But it's kind of funny. It reminds me of the hop wars in microbrews. You know, brew pubs, microbrews, local breweries, that kind of thing. People got into this idea that they should over hop everything. And hops are essentially from flowers. So it adds a floral. No, different ones do more and other ones do less, but you get an IPA. IPAs were high alcohol, and they were also highly hopped for a specific reason, being that they had to make the voyage from England to India. And I think what happened is people started homebrewing and then brew pub and all that with the IPAs. And they took the wrong lesson. They went, oh, higher alcohol, it's better. So it became kind of like a trendy thing. And they said, well, people really like the flavor of all these hops. And they started overhopping everything. Lagers, ambers, brown ales, all of it. I think that trend is finally starting to die the horrid death it deserved. And we're seeing some balance back in the beer market. But for a while, it was really, really hard to get around that. Yeah, unless you went to imports. But, you know, with the Acacia imports, they had a much longer and richer beer tradition. And there wasn't the idea you should floor it on the hops. They were shooting more for balance and a good tasting beer. In the case of Scorpions, you still had that very floral nature stuff, but you couldn't hide it behind it being supposedly higher alcohol. I think with the Scorpion, a couple of things happened. The first was that there was a lot of changeover. I think Smokin' Egg Curry has had one pepper or other as the Guinness World Record pepper, hottest pepper for last 13, 14 years, something like that. I might be wrong. It might be longer. I don't pay strict attention to that kind of stuff. It's kind of a point of curiosity for me, I guess. But in the case of the Reaper, which was the one before Pepper X, the Reaper knocked out the Scorpion. as the hottest pepper in the world. So the scorpion didn't get to spend a lot of time in that position, which in this case, being the hottest pepper in the world would be kind of like that analogy I made with the beer. It's high alcohol. But they didn't even have that anymore. They didn't have any of the prestige. So you had the Ghosties, which were supplanted as a better, still in my mind, probably the best tasting super hot. Then you had the Scorpions very briefly, and then you had the Reapers. And the Reapers, as far as I'm concerned, are a better tasting pepper than the Scorpions as well, and Pepper X. And I am still formulating an opinion on the Pepper X as far as flavor wise, but I've liked pretty much every setting it's been in for the most part. And I would definitely rather have Pepper X than a Scorpion. Scorpion I just don't think is a very particularly good tasting pepper. And once you've taken away the sort of mantle of this high heat, all you have left with is the actual flavor of the pot itself. So this one, I wish it was much closer to the flavors that I recognize as a ghost pepper, instead of being that of much closer to flavors I recognize as a Scorpion. And I'm going to rate this based on what's in the bottle, but I am at least 80, probably 75, 80% confident that there was either a mislabeling or, like I said, the cross-pollination, because this doesn't taste like any of the Ghosty products I think I've ever had, actually. So I can't say whether or not you should seek out a bottle of this. This is one of those odd things where it is punchy, but if you're not a fan of the Scorpion peppers, you know, you're kind of up against it a little bit. And I almost hate to... I mean, it comes down to their QA department, I guess. I almost hate to give them a rating which will surely be tarnished, because I'm going to rate it based on what it is. But I think it would have been a lot higher if it was a ghost pepper instead of whatever is in there. And it's just a little unfortunate. But I mean, I gamely tried for quite a while, but as soon as I cracked open the bottle and I smelled it, you know, I like it's Scorpion is very, very, very fragrant, and if you've had a lot of it, you'll know what I mean. But we'll just leave it right there. That was the Woodstock Ghost Pepper Hot Sauce. Number 4. In peace, to serve the flame.